So we are broadcasting this live event still by Zoom for those who want to enjoy it that way, for those of our members who are out of town and also want to enjoy our breakfast program content. So 200 people here this morning live, about 100 people there by Zoom. We're going to continue this, and the Zoom option, the fee for Zoom is going to be waived this month, and we'll see how it evolves over time. For those at home by Zoom, I want to remind you that the Q&A will be monitored, and we look forward to your questions. Please go ahead and enter those questions as you have them in the Q&A box, and we'll get them asked here as well. President Circle sponsors. At this time, we would love to thank and recognize our President Circle sponsors. They are instrumental in the success of our NAIOP chapter. Thank you to our platinum sponsor, Cox Business, who has supported this chapter for 17 years running and ongoing. We want to thank our gold sponsors, DC Building Group, Kimley Horn and Associates, Tony Development Company, Prologis, Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Howard Hughes Corporation, and Thomas and Mack Development Group. We would also like to recognize and thank each of our remaining levels of our President Circle sponsors. You can direct your attention to the slides to my right and left. We have our silver sponsors, bronze sponsors, and copper sponsors. Round of applause for all of our sponsors, please. And to the special crew that sponsors our breakfast every month, starting with SR Construction, NV Energy, Martin Harris Construction, KNIT, Helix Electric, Dermody Properties, Cox Business, Compass Development, Carpenter Sellers Delgado Architects, and this morning's breakfast sponsor, Affordable Concepts. Yes, clearly a crowd favorite. At this time, it's my privilege to introduce Bob Potter. Bob is the president and CEO of Affordable Concepts, Inc.
Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to be up here, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my executive team. If you guys would stand. You're all wearing gray shirts. Stand, gentlemen. Thank you. Arlie Scott Weisheim, Executive Vice President and Partner. Nelson Kamana back there in the back, Vice President, Partner. And then we have Tom Holloway, Director of Estimating. And we have Pete Siegel, Senior Project Manager. And in the back, Dave Kohlenbach, Project Manager. So thank you, guys. Go ahead and sit down. It is rewarding to see such a large group with no mask. And it grows every month. Isn't it exciting to be back to normal? The real question is, what is normal in this day and age? Not only in our industry, but in every industry today. With prices skyrocketing and supply chain disruptions, it's extremely difficult to price a project and deliver it in any timely manner. So I refer to you to these slides.
Every month, we like to recognize our new members. If you are a new member, please stand. You are the folks with the red ribbons on your name tags. I saw several of you, so please stand. Round of applause for our new members. Thank you for joining. We look forward to getting to know you and getting to work with you. NAIOP Southern Nevada is an organization that is 533 members strong. NAIOP members enjoy excellent opportunities for networking and creating meaningful connections through committee meetings, social events, and principal roundtables. NAIOP provides relevant and timely information through our breakfast programs, our education events, and Through those, we help our members thrive and our industry thrive. One great example was this morning with Bob sharing what most of us may not know, how the cost of products for construction impact our real estate projects. So thank you for that. If you're in the room today, if you're watching by Zoom and you're not a member, you should be. Please consider joining. There are 3 things that you can do. 1, go to NAIOPNV.org. The membership application is there online. You can call the NAIOP office, Alternative Management, or you can stop here and grab a membership application from the table on your way out. Shifting gears a bit as the world continues to open up, and if you are looking to engage at a higher level, here are 2 opportunities for you to do so through NAIOP National. The first one being ICON. ICON. Hear big ideas, trends, and new technologies in industrial development at NAIOP's National ICON West from August 31st through September 1st in Long Beach, California, very close to home. Visit NAIOP.org website to get more information and to register. Another opportunity is CRE Converge. You won't want to miss NAIOP's National CRE Converge to catch up on the latest trends in tech in commercial real estate. This one is September 27th through the 29th, a bit further out, but still a nice place in Miami Beach, Florida. Visit creconverge.org for early bird registration today. And now it's time for our committee announcements. NAIOP does not happen by accident. It happens through the hard work of our fantastic volunteers and committee members. Let's take a moment for some committee updates. Everyone, direct your attention to your right and my left. Go ahead, sir. One second, we'll get that turned on for you, sir. Boop, boop.
Okay, we're good. We're good. All right, guys. Sean Zayer with CBRE. I am the committee chair for the bus tour. We have some exciting news, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of because you diligently read through the NAIOP emails that are sent. But for the very few of you that don't, this year's bus tour will be an in-person event. So I know everyone's excited about that.
Yes, Bob's very excited about that.
So I know we had a successful virtual event last year, but we were extremely excited to have it in person this year. We are going to have a slightly different formatting, which I think might be for the better. Although it is in person, we will not be going on the buses, which I'm sure 90% of you will enjoy. That being said, we will still have the same concept. Essentially, the event will be on November 4th at Red Rock Casino. So we're changing up the actual venue this year. And we will be doing 4 zones, which will be essentially divided rooms, which will be considered submarkets, which we will have 4 buses or groups of people that will go through those different zones for a small period of time, in which you will see a small clip going through all the different projects within that submarket and then going through there. So we think it's a great event for networking, certainly a great event to meet your colleagues. And then secondly, we think it's going to be a very great event in terms of understanding what's going on in the market and getting some market detail that really we didn't necessarily see on the virtual tour that we typically would see on the bus tour. So very excited about that. The theme this year is strength through adversity, which I think is very appropriate for this year. The market strength has certainly shown through the adversity that we've had to face over this last year and a half. So I think it's extremely appropriate. And we are extremely excited about this year's event. That being said, make sure to register. We have a few sponsorship opportunities still available. Those have gone extremely quickly. So if you're interested in sponsoring the event, please reach out to myself or Jennifer.
Morning, I'm Patty Dillon with Colliers International. I'm the committee chair for the community service group. And instead of cleaning out our closets this year for the annual not tie down clothing and tie drive, we're going to switch it up again this year. And we're doing a fundraiser for the months of June and July to partner with communities and schools to help graduating seniors with their college application fees. So please be on the lookout for an email with the link for donations. You can also donate by check. If you do by check, please make sure that in the memo it says NAIOP college fee application donation. And if you have any other questions about where your money's going or where to drop off your funds, please reach out to Chris Teachman at Lee and Sakahara. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Sam Flaherty with Encore Landscape Management. I'm the chair of the DLI committee. So the National NAIOP DLI Developing Leader Award submissions are due on June 25th. It's open to any NAIOP members who are 35 years and younger. You didn't have to go through the local chapter DLI program to submit. If you have any questions about how to apply, you can contact me. Otherwise, you can go just straight to the NAIOP national website and apply through there. Our local DLI chapter is hosting a summer school series for DLI alum. The first session is next week and it's Retail 101. We have an Office 101 next month with Lepore, and just to step back a few, Retail is with Dina Marcello of Logic CRE. So it's a really exciting way to keep the value going for our DLI members. If you haven't done the DLI program, we try to do things like this quarterly just to keep adding value and to stay connected.
Good morning. I'm Guy Gugino with Wells Fargo. I think they went in descending height order. Today, I'm here to tell you about the NAIOP golf tournament. It's on October 8th at Spanish Trail. I'm going to turn real quick because I haven't seen the slide yet. It is around the world in 18 holes. We do have limited foursomes available with sponsorships. It'll be on a first come, first served basis. There are sponsorships available. We have lunch and plenty of player giveaway items. If you're interested, you can reach out to me, Jonna Katrina, or Alicia Nelson, and we will help you get a sponsorship. And if you're early enough, a foursome. And Chaim, I'm turning the time back over to you.
Thank you, Guy. Round of applause for the committee. Excuse me, for the committee chairs for all their hard work and dedication. And also I'd be remiss not to recognize the programs committee who planned this morning's event. Let me go ahead and call everybody up to the stage as I make one more announcement and introduce our moderator. Come on up so we can get this program going. First and foremost, everyone look down at your table. There are pads and pens. Locate those. If you have questions during today's program, write them down and submit them. I'll be sitting here. You can bring them to me. Anybody else? Dan Tutlin, stand up so everyone can see you. Give them to Dan. Write down your questions. Give them to Dan or to myself. We'll make sure they get asked. And for those Zooming from home, the Q&A box will be monitored. And now it is my distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce our moderator, Cassie Catania-Hsu, the Managing Director of CBRE. We need a theme song. We need a band. Cassie oversees all CBRE advisory lines of business for the Las Vegas Valley, including advisory and transaction services, capital markets, debt and structured finance, property management, and valuation advisory services. A nearly 30-year resident of Las Vegas, she has more than a decade of experience in local commercial real estate. She doesn't sleep much if you didn't know that. Cassie wears many hats. She has many ribbons in NAIOP. She is a board member. Yeah, one more. She is a board member, Spotlight Awards chair. She serves on the DLI. She's a DLI alumni and serves on the committee, and she's on the communications committee. Cassie is a dear friend, and if you haven't noticed, a serious badass. Welcome, Cassie.
Thank you. Thank you, Chaim. He did forget to say best class ever of DLI, but that was for you, Jen. Thank you and good morning. I would also like to thank whoever pushed the breakfast meetings back 30 minutes for those of us with kids. So thank you. It's my pleasure today to be here. I'm excited for this panel. I'm sure a lot of you in the room are wondering what most of us in brokerage are doing every day. So it's my honor to introduce our panelists, and I will start with Tabor. Tabor Thill is the Senior Vice President with Colliers. He is also an SIOR and on the SIOR Global Committee and the local board of directors and the current president. He has done 1,700 transactions totaling $2 billion in his career. And he is on a client-focused office team with that is community aware and has been the NAIOP Southern Nevada Office Broker of the Year for 6 years in a row now. Welcome, Tabor. Next, I'll introduce Jarrad Katz, a very good personal friend of mine. Jarrad Katz, SIOR CCIM, is the Executive Vice President and Principal with MDL Group. Jarrad has been practicing commercial real estate full-time since graduating from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration Marketing. Prior to joining MDL Group, Jarrad was Senior Vice President at NAI Global Las Vegas and has worked with me since 2007. His team averages 75 to 100 transactions annually and has closed more than $700 million in transactions for his clients. Outside of the office, Jarrad enjoys volunteering for such organizations as Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation and Safe Nest. He's also past president of CCIM and SIOR, a Leadership Henderson graduate, and NAIOP Developing Leaders class of 2009. Welcome, Jarrad. No love lost for DLI here. And last but certainly not least, Miss Angelica Clemmer, CCIM with ROI Commercial Real Estate. Angelica was raised in Boulder City, Nevada, a quaint suburb of Las Vegas. While attending UNLV, she began her commercial real estate career working in escrow at Chicago Title from 2006 to 2009. She then accepted a position at Colliers, where she spent the next 5 years learning and absorbing all things commercial real estate while waiting out the Great Recession. She decided that she wanted to focus her efforts in retail. Her mentors failed to tell her about the amount of sign calls a retail broker receives, and joined ROI Commercial Real Estate in 2015. Her specialties in retail include the Las Vegas Strip, experiential retail, tenant representation, landlord representation, and investment sales. Angelica's passion is Safe Nest, Nevada's largest nonprofit solely devoted to domestic violence issues. She has volunteered and sat on the board since 2013 and currently serves as the president of Safe Nest Foundation Board of Directors. Angelica is involved in Southern Nevada CCIM, NAIOP Southern Nevada, and ICSC Next Generation. When she's not working, you'll likely find her on a road trip with her husband, Josh, and her dog, Artichoke. Welcome, Angelica. All right, we'll get started. I have a big clock here, so I don't mess up. Yeah, before Jarrad starts heckling me. So let's start with industrial real estate, since it's the darling at the dance right now. I'm sure many of you in the room wish you were industrial brokers today. Jarrad, please tell us overall what the industrial brokerage climate is in Las Vegas, especially with this limited inventory and high demand.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's always an honor to be invited to speak on these panels, especially in front of this group. Yes, great time to be an industrial broker, very exciting. However, that comes with its own challenges. So you have a 50,000 square foot tenant, you go out to market, you find 15 options on RealNext. Really, it's probably 8. You call those brokers. There's multiple offers on 7 out of the 8. And the last one is functionally obsolete. So what do you do, right? So really what it comes down to is nurturing the relationships in the marketplace. The reality is there's 3 or 4 excellent teams that control most of the ground up construction, the new product coming out. They're all consummate professionals. But when you call them, be prepared. Be prepared to answer questions. Educate your clients after you talk to them. The days of 6 months free rent on a 5-year lease are over. The days of a 10% reduction in lease rates are over. Call those brokers, talk to them. What are the deals getting done at? Where do I need to come in? And don't be afraid to call your client and tell them they're crazy. They're not going to get what they want to offer. And it really comes down to those relationships, because when you have those conversations, those brokers will tell you, yes, we have multiple offers on 5 buildings, but there actually is only 2 tenants with offers on all 5 buildings. So they're only going to land in one place. And if you treat those brokers with respect, ask them the questions, they'll help you get there.
Is it Jen who just listed the basement of the Sears as industrial space? So help her find a tenant for that.
12-foot clear height and 12-foot column spacing. Yeah.
Jarrad, are you guys quoting lease rates?
My listings are ground up. I don't know if we're going to in the 2 projects that I'm bringing out of ground today. Most of the new construction, they're not. And it's actually really hard to do today with the rising construction costs. Luckily, lease rates have gone up to cover that spread. But if you have a ground up construction project that's not going to deliver for 12 months, it's a bad idea to quote a rate, because who knows where those rates need to be at the time the project is finished.
Thanks, Jarrad. Now, Tabor, on the flip side, please tell us what the office brokerage climate is like locally. We are seeing ample inventory in a changing work environment.
Thanks for having me. The office market obviously was pretty quiet during COVID. There's a lot of news about how people are going to return to the office, if they're going to return to the office. And, frankly, it was a quiet COVID year, but since January, our activity has been very robust. A lot of the space that was available for sublease has been absorbed. So we had roughly 800,000 square feet hit the market for sublease during the pandemic. I'd say there's maybe 150,000 of that that's pandemic related still available. And our vacancy rates have dropped. We'll see the numbers coming back for Q2, probably with a significant reduction. So it's been pretty robust.
Have you seen changes in TI layout since COVID?
Not really. Mostly on building systems, touchless surfaces, touchless elevators. Most of it's new construction. And, but as far as TIs, layouts, maybe some furniture systems changes, but really there's probably more people going to hard wall offices and less in the cube environment than anything. And that trend started in 2018. So I think it's going to continue, that we're going to see more of the 50% office, 50% cubicle, and square footages or anything have been affected.
Interesting. Thanks, Tabor. And Angelica, please tell us what the retail brokerage climate is right now. And I think it's safe to say it's a lot less distressed than most of us anticipated.
Yes, I think that in the beginning, when everything happened with COVID, we were all immediately like, we're going to have a ton of restaurant fallout. We had strong restaurant groups on the sidelines waiting for second gen restaurant space to come to market. And it really didn't happen. I was on tour yesterday with a client and he said something that I loved, but he said, retail isn't dead, bad retail is dead. And so a lot of what we saw that fell out was one, things that were being marketed before COVID. They just kind of used COVID as like their reason to actually close. But that's like the pure ones. The restaurants, the 10,000 square feet up just are kind of obsolete now. Technology has shrunk the size of a kitchen and what you need to actually service that many people. And then also I think that something that was the main from COVID was the different revenue streams that restaurants took on. So there was curbside pickup, there were packages that were created by chefs, and you could take them home and you could cook with the chef via Zoom or a video conference. And a lot of our really strong chef restaurants said that they actually had stronger volumes in 2020 versus 2019 because of those different avenues. So landlords were also really working with tenants, which was refreshing to see that we are all kind of like in this together. So I think that that's really why we didn't have as much fallout as we thought we were going to.
Great, thanks. Tabor, I'm going to go back to you and back to the office discussion. Can you update us on all the new construction activity along the 215 curve?
I can. Obviously, there's quite a few projects underway at the curve. Uncommons is roughly 100% committed with all credit tenants for pre-lease, which is amazing. We're typically not a big pre-lease market, but it just shows that you could build a new concept project and charge top of market rents and still get great credit tenants. Narrative, which is adjacent, that's going to break ground on August 1st. And then Axiom, which is a sandstone project, is already tilted, the garage is complete, and I think they're working on the flooring. So I'm not sure what their pre-leasing activity has been. That project was done 100% with cash, so they didn't have a pre-lease contingency, but rents in the Southwest are, like I said, they're top of market. On average, it's $3.15 a foot, which is pretty close to our historic highs. I think the highest our rents we've ever achieved were at the Wells Fargo Tower at $4 a foot. So it's dynamic and fast moving and exciting. See what's going to happen.
So you're saying that office isn't like a huge pre-lease market? Because I feel like all of our new retail, we're not seeing a ton of large retail developments, but any time I'm with a smaller developer that's developing like 5 acres under. We have to have 40% at least for our construction loans pre-leased. But typically, a lot of these developers won't take any risk until it's like 80% fully leased. And then when you're dealing with like multi-tenant buildings, then we have small mom and pops that have to come into some of those spaces too. And a lot of those don't believe
No.
it until they see it. So I think it's interesting that we have to do it the opposite way.
No, I'm saying that it's not typical that office tenants go into a project
Mm.
with a pre-commitment.
Okay,
Lenders are definitely requiring it.
Yeah.
Developers are requiring it. They need the security probably more than ever because, banks want to see a 60%
for sure.
pre-lease commitment. It's just not typical because office users, like you said, they'll believe it when they see it.
Yeah. I also like on that point too, I find like in the retail sector where a lot of the landowners are not willing to give us these long due diligence periods that we've asked for before when coming in tow with a developer. So before when we could tie up a property for 6 months to get due diligence, which is unfortunate because right now all the municipalities have us all backed up for getting any sort of permitting. But I feel like there's a lot less patience with that. I don't know if you're seeing that in your guys' sectors.
I'd say if industrial required 60 to 80% pre-leasing, there wouldn't be any industrial buildings.
Yeah.
We didn't have pre-leasing success with pre-leasing up until this year with
Yeah.
industrial. There was still a lot of concern in the marketplace from the downturn. Is it actually going to get built? Obviously, a lot of stuff got built, but a lot of these industrial users don't give themselves that much time.
Which is so mind blowing too, because I feel like you guys like throwing up and it's like signs up the next day, buildings up one day, signs up next day, trucks are pulling in and out. Like, I mean,
My
it makes it look
experience,
real easy.
up until this year, the leasing activity didn't really start until the walls went up.
Okay,
You're marketing, you're talking to people,
yeah,
but you can really get a definitive delivery date once the walls go up.
yeah. I feel like Cassie said before, I think everyone has this beautiful idea of how easy industrial deals are these days.
Is that because of the hyper demand and then the push for, the construction costs going up? And like you said, you're not going out at a quoted rate on a new project. Is that the reason why there's not more pre-lease?
I just think, culturally that tenant, especially in the smaller mid-bay incubator space, they don't give themselves enough time even to build a TI. So if you have a shell space that doesn't have spec office, most of these tenants, when they're calling us, they need to move in 30 days. The big box, a little bit different. When you get into the institutional tenants, they're giving themselves a little bit more time, but certainly not signing a lease when it's just dirt.
I'm totally going off, sorry.
all right.
Are you seeing a lot of ghost kitchen requests? Because I feel like I have so many restaurant concepts that are like, oh, we only want 1,000 square feet, or we want less, which is nearly impossible. And they're like, because we're gonna do a ghost kitchen. And then I have those same tenants that have several locations that want ghost kitchens, and they don't exist in industrial because there's so much demand for industrial space.
Yeah, we don't have any, so we do get the calls.
Yeah.
But I don't have any landlords that'll build a kitchen in an
Yeah.
industrial space that will have 5 offers on it the next week.
Yeah, well, I got like 3 calls a week saying that if you build it, then they'll lease it. So
Same with cold storage. but
yeah,
You're gonna
it's
spend $200 a
insane.
foot on the warehouse.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
If
bad.
you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
What about drive-through? Are concepts that didn't embrace drive-throughs before, are they looking for drive-throughs? Is that a higher
Yeah,
demand?
For sure. I think like as far as for retail, I think we're all competing for the same space. Obviously big box is something that we're dealing with and trying to repurpose. But when it comes to drive-through space, one of my largest accounts is Dutch Bros Coffee, and I've had great success with them. But I'm not just competing against Starbucks. I'm not just competing against other coffee users. I'm competing against fast food users who are shrinking down their footprint now because they want to be mainly drive-through. So like Burger King's come out with new renderings. Several fast food users have come out with new renderings with smaller buildings, larger car stacks. And it's definitely driving my competition, where I used to be able to just take over a half an acre where most fast food users needed an acre, and they're reconfiguring because they've realized how You can just change that to drive-through. And Dutch Bros proved that they were kind of COVID proof when everything was shut down, because they were drive-through and walk-up only. So they were never required to shut down. And I think they also offered an experience where people were going crazy in the house with their kids and like, well, just get in the car. We're going to go drive through and get a sugary drink to, keep you happy and to move on. And so Dutch Bros numbers did really well through COVID, but I am seeing a lot of, on my landlord rep side, a lot of people who are coming into the market, salad users that are drive-through concepts. Like I said, other fast food users who are shrinking it. Everybody wants a drive-through, even if it doesn't make sense. And personally, I'm still waiting for a drive-through liquor store. Other states have it. I don't know why we don't. I think we should. But yes, drive-throughs are what is hot in retail.
And what other trends, Angelica, are you seeing in retail the last year that have changed aside from drive-throughs?
I think experiential retail, I think where myself and my team are probably the only people who are like screaming it everywhere we go. But we did do the lease up on Area 15, which kind of opened our minds to a new wave of retail, and also kind of showing a trend of what brick and mortar retail needs to do to keep people from not shopping online and in their stores. And it's offering a consumer an experience. So you want to feel good about your purchase. You want to have something unique about it. And to be frank, it's millennials and Gen Zs that just want to take a picture of it and post it. But that's what is driving a lot of the consumer spending habits. So these like concepts, like, you have the Nikes of the world who have like experience that lets you figure out like the way that you step on your feet so they can perfectly form your shoe. And there's, there's a lot of that that's coming in that's changing. But then also, with COVID, we were almost completely leased with Area 15 when the shutdown happened. And we were like, holy shit, we might have just mess this up, because for those uses, you need a massive amount of put through to do well, to go through a light experience or axe throwing experience. You can't have a lot of restriction on how many people can be there. But Area 15 is busy every time that I've gone, no matter if it's at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday or noon on a Saturday or 10 o'clock on a Monday. They're slammed because people are looking for a different type of experience. I think everyone was sick of being home, so they're a lot more open-minded to how they spend their money.
Can you share the lease rates at an Area 15 and how the leases are structured? Are they percentage rent, fixed rent?
Yeah, so we went out on a fixed rate. So we were about $36 square foot triple net. And so the triple nets were high because it's technically a mall. It's just not a mall. And there were a couple of % rent deals done with ownership, but ownership decided to be owners in those concepts. But for the majority of it, they're all typical 10-year, 15-year deals with a strong lease rate with 3% annual increases and a big TI. And all the tenants there are happy. I mean, if you guys haven't been, I strongly suggest you go. It's definitely good entertainment for all ages. So check it out.
I haven't been. I need to go. So maybe we need to do a hashtag NAIOP summer field trip.
Yeah, for sure.
Christy will help me put the pictures on social media. Yeah, I mean, speaking of industrial seems easy. I think the construction looks a lot easier than most other product types. I will say my industrial teams at CB are working 7 to 7, if not longer. They're the first in and the last to leave. So although it looks easy, industrial brokers right now are working really hard. So speaking of industrial boom, Jarrad, what is this increase in demand that we've seen over the past year, and what is it really like? Where is it coming from?
Well, it's coming from e-commerce. There's conflicting reports, but the last report I read was that e-commerce grew by 44% in 2020. For obvious reasons, everybody's ordering everything to their house. In that same report, it talked about consumer spending and where consumers are spending money. Only about 35% of consumer spending is e-commerce. People are still buying from brick and mortar stores. So there's a long runway for e-commerce, which is driving future demand, which is a driver for a lot of these developers. So as Angelica said, the big footprints for retail are becoming obsolete. I think those footprints are getting smaller and they're taking on more warehouse space, because why would you spend $36 a foot when you could spend 60 cents a foot?
Well, and
So-
we, on our pre-talk, we kind of talked about it too, like Nordstrom's, for example. Nordstrom's is actually a retailer that's doing e-commerce and brick and mortar really well. But if you've walked into our Nordstrom's recently, they are definitely also a fulfillment center. You can order, you can pick up at Nordstrom's. When you walk into the first floor, there are racks of bags for people for picking up. But yes, industrial is much cheaper than a retail in a mall. So
There's
they're-
still plenty of demand. There's a
Yeah.
long runway. There's a lot of new projects coming out. But there's still a huge concern with land. We have a huge land constraint issue here. Obviously, this room knows with the NAIOP land study. I think a lot of our community has no clue how bad it is. You fly into Las Vegas and you see nothing but land. It looks like we're 40% vacant land. Well, that's BLM land or that's rural neighborhood preservation. And I don't know about you, but it would take an act of God to change some of those zonings unless they're fronting a major street. A lot of those infill sites lack utilities. A lot of land in Apex, not enough power. There's a 2 or 3 year runway there before power comes. So we've got some issues to work out. I mean, I'll give you an example of how fun it is to be an industrial broker right now. There's a 22-acre parcel in North Las Vegas that literally has a mountain on it. It's owned by an old client of mine, not a current client. I had the listing in my pocket for about a year, advising him, let's try to grade it. Let's clear out some of these mountains. I couldn't get anyone to look at it for $6 a foot. I think we had an offer from Kevin's team at $3 a foot. Seller wouldn't consider it. He paid $6 a foot in 2007, so he's not selling it for a penny less. Fast forward 14 months, he gives a listing to Logic, Amy Ogden. You would have thought that this piece of land was toilet paper in March of 2020. I'm not kidding. There's $2 million in site work, a minimum $2 a foot in site work. I had an owner user, 30-day due diligence, 15-day close, all cash, willing to pay $11 a foot, knowing that there's $2 a foot in site work. They had 10 offers in a 30-day period. And it's going to, I'm told, a spec developer over $13 a foot as is.
Wow.
Now this site, it fronts to 15, that's great, but on the north side of it is a very dirty recycling user that has trains that come load the recycling materials that block the road multiple times throughout the day. And on the other side is a biodiesel fuel. I mean, this is a dirty site. This works for an owner user. I don't know about spec development. Again, I've seen some crazy things. Somebody in this room probably has it under contract, but
I'll let you know
I had a
later.
really hard time recommending the $11 a foot. So, I've got assignments right now that 16 years ago, I would have drooled over and I would have had multiple options for them. And these deals would have made my career. 10-acre buyers, 20-acre buyers, owner users, all cash. They're not constrained by future lease rates. They're not constrained by future construction costs. They need the yard space. Show me the site. It's unbelievable how tight this market is. So yes, it's a good time to be an industrial broker, but it's certainly not all butterflies and rainbows.
I think the land problem is affecting us all, which is probably why we don't have a land broker on the panel. I'm assuming because I don't have much to talk about.
Hey,
But
what about conversion of brick and mortar retail to industrial? You mentioned earlier the SIOR site, but what about Meadows Mall or some of these areas that are depleted, or Fry's? Will Fry's be a Amazon fulfillment center?
Could be. We're seeing that happen in LA, San Francisco, bigger markets. I don't think we're there yet in this market. I think that the cost to retrofit those buildings, it far exceeds the opportunity today. But as we have no land, we'll see what happens. I don't think that like a Meadows Mall site, I don't think that they would retrofit those big box retail into
Scrape it,
industrial. I
right?
think they'd scrape it and put, more distribution with the big problem is that like the Amazons, I'm drawing a blank on it, the last mile sites, they need a lot of parking. They need to park those trucks and those vans. So you're seeing a smaller footprint on the building and a bigger yard for parking. So I see that happening, but it's going to have to be an Amazon that's already a tenant in tow for a developer to take down a project like that and scrape it.
bringing up Amazon, Tabor and I were talking about this earlier. So what I think has been also kind of an issue for retail is keeping employees. And I'm sure it's happening across the board in most sectors. But I read an article yesterday on Amazon that they have 150% turnover rate and most of their employees don't last 8 weeks. Like that is insane. So their board is terrified that they are going to work through all minimum wage workers within a certain amount of time because of how many people that they hire. And so we are talking about this, like Tabor said that he had gone to a restaurant and they were closed because they didn't have enough staff. And so I think it's